What's up, people on the interwebs? Having an amazing day. So, you may have seen on the news recently there was a stabbing in one of the Pokemon centers in Tokyo. Now, sadly, both of the people involved in it have died. So, from what the news has gathered from it, it seems to be it was an ex-boyfriend obviously trying to find his ex-girlfriend, and then obviously I think he was not taking the breakup well. Apparently there was claims of stalking from him, from the girl that she's made. There was like police, or she went to the police, made claims to the police that he was stalking him, and he obviously just hasn't handled the whole breakup very well over the last year. And then it went to a boiling point where he got a knife, found her while working in the Pokemon Center, stabbed her, and then eventually stabbed himself. So yeah, just an awful experience, and I feel very bad for anyone who are currently in the Pokemon Center while it happened. Currently, the center is closed in Tokyo while they're doing the investigation for the whole process, but it'll probably be open again in a couple of days. But yeah, such a horrible event and situation, especially for some of the kids. Oh, I hate to imagine some of the kids that they saw it. Hopefully, the parents got them out very quickly in a situation like that. But yeah, it's just absolutely horrible when you see something like that in Japan, because it was just like a boiling point again. Obviously he didn't take up the breakup very well. He hadn't processed his emotions and regulations, and then it just went to a boiling point, and then he sort of took all of his pent up emotions inside to an extreme. But I say it's the hard thing with just the whole, I wouldn't say dating in Japan. For some people, it's just the whole, you fall in love with someone, maybe you think that's going to be your forever person, and then you break up with them, or they decide, I don't want to be with you anymore. And then it's the whole emotional regulation on, how do you handle a breakup, and to get the thought process to the next stage of moving on is the biggest thing. And I think a lot of people struggle with moving on. I don't want to say this is a Japan thing as well, because there's other countries with, I wouldn't say similar things, but the whole someone falls in love and then you think they're going to be forever, then you break up, and then it's the whole dealing with that. Japan's not the only country where something like this kind of situation has happened. They've gone to the extreme, and their emotions and feelings, they just get kind of bottled up, and it explodes like a volcano. Recently, nothing like to this extreme, but I have a friend where something similar has happened in this situation. They've had a bad breakup, and the emotions kind of exploded like a volcano. So it is something, it's just the struggle with kind of dating, and both of the people were very young. I think they were sort of early 20s, so potentially it could have been their first love, especially for the guy who did the crime. I think it's just a hard situation. It's horrible. I definitely think maybe kind of therapy maybe should have been sought out, or just someone to speak to kind of get the emotions out. I think that's always the biggest thing. Especially after a breakup, never keep a breakup kind of kept away. Find a friend, just find someone to talk to about it, because the whole venting it out will help with the process. I also think when you feel ready enough, I definitely think you should at least go on at least one date. It doesn't have to go anywhere, but the whole element of just kind of getting it out, putting yourself out there, just talking to a new person, I think also really helps with the kind of moving on process. I think not going on a date, or not kind of just at least putting yourself out there, I think it makes it harder to kind of start the move on process as well, because you're too caught up in your mind as well. I think you'll be replaying the time you spent with that person, and how, like, why can't they sort of love me like I love them, sort of thing. So I really think if a breakup happens, take the time to grieve, but I definitely think put yourself out there, go on at least one date as soon as you feel ready to, because I think the longer you stay in your head about it, I think the situation gets a lot worse and becomes horrible, and then people get into that whole volcano situation where they've kept their feelings locked away for too long. So yeah, really find someone to talk to. But yeah, that's a horrible situation that's happened in Tokyo with the event. I'm hoping people will still go to these centers as well. I hope they're not going to be too traumatized for what they saw, because what we hear on the news, it's a very snippet. You hear sort of someone been attacked with a knife, but if you've actually seen it in real life, and especially you just hear on the newspaper just been stabbed, you don't know how many times, how aggressive, all those kind of small things. And if a kid's seen it, it could be traumatizing. People may never go to those places again. I'm kind of hoping, it's hard because you don't know who's in the shop at the same time, but maybe if I was the Pokemon Center, and if you're scared that, because I've heard from what I've sort of read online and some other people talking about this, some people are scared that the ones in the shops may never sort of enjoy Pokemon, or like it's ruined their whole Pokemon experience, or they may never go back to the shop, or any kind of Pokemon experience in general. Where I kind of think maybe if I was the Pokemon Center, it's kind of hard because you don't know who's in the shop at the time when it happened, but maybe get on like a trust-based situation where, hey, if you were in this shop, Pokemon, maybe we'll give some like vouchers away, or give some Pokemon vouchers, or just kind of something to just kind of hope, maybe to encourage people to keep coming and hopefully not be too traumatized from the event. But it's also hard because it's not Pokemon's fault either. It's just someone who worked in their shop, and the ex-boyfriend just didn't take the breakup very well. So yeah, it's just very interesting. It's a typical thing with Japan in the way of, you don't really hear any big crime, but when there is a big crime, it tends to be really big. The crime system is 0 to 100. You don't hear many small ones. You always hit the big ones. But I will also say there are still a lot of small crimes. I just personally think Japan's very good at covering up small crimes, especially I think being more in the countryside. A lot more of the locals talk to one another, and if you can get into like the town gossip, you'll be surprised what you hear on the grapevine, and how good the kind of higher ups and the boards are very good at covering some of the smaller crimes, because they don't want it to put a wreck on the public image. So I think that's also the different element as well. I think there is some lower crimes that do happen, but they're very good at covering it up. Where when there's a big kind of volcano crime like this one, it's hard to cover up a crime like this, especially in a Pokemon Center, because there's cameras everywhere, there's footage of the event. I don't want to put any of the footage on here because I think it's already traumatizing enough, and I don't think anyone needs to see it. And I'm sure if you've probably clicked on this video, you've probably seen some of the elements already. But especially currently now for Pokemon Centers, they are really jam-packed, because they're currently celebrating their 30th anniversary. I went to the Pokemon Center in Kagagawa a couple of weeks ago to get some merchandise. So yeah, the shops are really busy. I think, tourist wise, travel wise, if anyone is worried about coming to Japan after this, I would say you will be fine. Most times when a situation like this happens, it tends to be the person does know the person. Having an actual random attack is very, very, very low. Most times it's because they know someone. So percentage wise as well, we've had a big accident. So on like percentage and logic, this is kind of the more safer time to go because you've had an incident. But yeah, I just think, just be careful when you're traveling around. You should be fine, but always be vigilant, always be, observing. If you ever see anything strange or suspicious, report it to the nearest kind of either police, or if it's maybe in a mall, like the information center. If you just think there's something suspicious going on, always report it. Never keep quiet. And yeah, just to be careful when you should be fine in the Pokemon centers, but also currently because of the anniversary, they are very busy. They are jam packed currently. The last 2 times I've been to one recently, both have been very, very busy, especially because of the anniversary. And there's also a new Pokemon game out, so they are very busy. But my thoughts and prayers to the victim of the family, because this is a heartbreaking situation. If you ever go through a breakup, talk to people. If you ever need it as well, maybe go to therapy. It just kind of get your kind of thoughts and feelings out there. Don't bottle it up is the most important thing, and just take the time to help to kind of heal, grieve, move on. Because I just think for the whole, dating's hard in general, but there will be someone out there who will kind of value and appreciate who you are as a person. And I always see it as if you do end a relationship, that wasn't the person for you, there's a better person just around the corner. So don't give up, keep trying, one day at a time. But yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts and opinions. I just wanted to talk about the event. Maybe if you guys have any thoughts and opinions, but Tokyo is still a safe country. It's just, like most countries, in the UK, we've probably had stabbings like this. I know that one of the big ones we had was an acid attack where a girl broke up with a guy and then he threw acid in front of her face. So yeah, it's just, it's a horrible situation. There's no positive at all in an event like this, but just stay safe. If you ever do get into a bad breakup, just get your emotions out. That's the biggest thing. Don't bottle it up. Don't have a volcano situation, because when you've had the volcano situation and you kind of get the clarity, you do kind of feel pretty like, what have I done? It's not worth the explosion. So just always talk your feelings out is my advice I can give in any situation like this. Don't bottle it up. Don't have a volcano reaction, because it's a horrible experience. No one wins in a situation like this. But yeah, that's my thoughts. That's my opinions. Stay safe, guys. If you do come to Japan, have a fun trip. And yeah, just let me know your thoughts and opinions. If you enjoyed today's video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.